Have you ever noticed how incredibly heavy your own body feels when you finally close your door at the end of a long day? You drop your keys, take off your shoes, and collapse onto the edge of your bed. You are completely drained. You have spent the day giving away pieces of yourself to everyone who asked. You agreed to extra work. You listened to a friend complain when you barely had energy to keep your own eyes open. But the moment you finally sit down to do absolutely nothing, a quiet, anxious voice starts whispering. It tells you that you are wasting time. It tells you that you should be helping someone or organizing something. Your heart beats faster. Your jaw clenches. You are exhausted to your bones, but you feel overwhelmingly guilty for resting. This is a deeply painful place to be. It is the exhausting intersection of the nice guy trap and the curse of productivity guilt. Underneath the surface, it isn't really about being nice. It is about an invisible contract you wrote with the world a long time ago. A contract that says your value in any room is measured strictly by what you can provide. You have unconsciously confused being helpful with being loved. Because your worth is entirely tied to your output, the very act of stopping feels psychologically dangerous. When you are always doing things for others, you never have to face the quiet fear that you might not be enough on your own. I remember a time when I thought saying yes to everything was just my personality. A friend called me late on a Friday afternoon. He was moving and he was completely disorganized. He asked if I could come help. My body was craving rest, but before I could process my exhaustion, the word "okay" slipped out. I spent the entire night hauling heavy boxes down 3 flights of stairs. I was sweating, my back aching, essentially organizing his life while he mostly stood around. By 5 in the morning, I was hollowed out. I drove home in the dark, comforting myself with the thought that at least I was a good friend. When I woke up a few hours later, the first thing I saw on my phone was his story. He was out at brunch with different friends, holding up a drink. The caption read, "Celebrating a successful move." I wasn't invited. In that moment, I didn't just feel tired, I felt entirely used. But the hardest, most uncomfortable truth to swallow was that I had handed him the tools to use me. I had taught him that my time was free and that my boundaries simply did not exist. After seeing that photo, I decided to reclaim my weekend and just rest. I curled up under a blanket and put on a movie, but my chest felt tight. My heart was racing as if I were about to take a final exam. Even though I was physically broken from the night before, a relentless voice in my head kept chanting that I was being lazy. Your body is screaming for sleep, but your nervous system is hijacked by shame. I was lying perfectly still, but internally I was running a frantic marathon. Why do we feel guilty for the one thing our bodies biologically need to survive? It comes down to how you have learned to define your worth. Somewhere along the line, you internalize the idea that love and safety were conditional. Maybe you grew up in a home where you were only noticed when you stayed quiet and anticipated the adult's needs. You had to pay rent for your existence by fixing everyone else's emotional weather. If you stop fixing, the old terrifying fear flares up. Who am I if I am not useful? Will anyone still want me around if I have nothing left to give? This pattern bleeds into the mundane moments of your life. It is the reason you reply to a work email at 10 o'clock at night while brushing your teeth. It is why you stay late to clean up a coworker's mess, simply because the tension of leaving it undone feels unbearable. It feels as though saying no would make the sky fall. You are terrified of disappointing other people, but you have become tragically comfortable with disappointing yourself. When you always defer to what others want, you become a supporting character in everyone else's movie. You begin to harbor a quiet resentment toward the very people you are helping. You secretly wish someone would notice how tired you are and step in. But people will rarely tell you to stop. They will usually just keep taking what you freely offer, assuming that if you were too tired, you would say so. To break this cycle, we have to radically change the way we view resting. We treat rest like a reward. We see it as something we are only allowed to have after we have crossed every item off the endless to-do list. If you wait until you have earned your rest, you will exhaust yourself to the point of breaking. Rest is not a reward for good behavior. Rest is basic, non-negotiable maintenance. You are not a machine, but even machines need to be powered down. When you sit on the couch and stare at the wall, you are actively repairing your nervous system. But how do we start setting boundaries without feeling like we are committing a crime? It starts by decoupling the word no from the concept of aggression. For a chronic people pleaser, setting a boundary feels like an act of violence. But a boundary is not an attack. It is simply a neutral statement of your current capacity. You do not need to offer a 10-minute apology when you decline a request. Over-explaining makes it sound like you are nervously asking for permission to have a limit. The most effective way to say no is to use short, clear sentences and offer a small alternative. When a friend asks you to give up your weekend to help them move, you can simply say, "I cannot help with the whole move today, but I have an hour on Saturday morning to help pack boxes." If a coworker asks you to take over a complex project at the last minute, you can say, "I do not have the capacity to take this on right now, but I can send you the template I used last time." Another powerful tool is the delay. When someone asks for a favor, your reflex is to instantly say yes. You have to train yourself to insert a pause. Simply say, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." The first time you try this, your hands might shake. Your heart will probably beat fast. That discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is the feeling of an old habit breaking apart. You are fundamentally retraining your nervous system to understand that it is safe to have limits. You are teaching yourself that you will not be abandoned just because you said no. Often, the people we are terrified of disappointing are not even thinking about us as deeply as we fear. Remember my friend with the moving boxes? He was just living his life, focused entirely on his own needs. People will generally take up exactly as much space as you give them. If you lay down on the ground, people will walk over you, simply because you look like a bridge. It is a profound realization when you finally understand that your worth is built in. You do not have to perform to be loved. The people who get angry when you finally set a boundary are almost always the ones who are heavily benefiting from you having none. The journey from overgiving to protecting your peace is not perfectly linear. You will have days where you slip up. You will say yes when your body means no. When that happens, be gentle with yourself. You are undoing years of survival programming. For a long time, being hyper-accommodating kept you safe. It made you immune to criticism. You can thank that old defense mechanism for its service and gently remind it that you do not need it anymore. And as for the guilt of resting, the next time you lie down and that anxious voice starts listing all the chores you should be doing, do not fight the voice. Acknowledge it like a nervous passenger sitting next to you. Say to yourself quietly, "I hear that I feel guilty right now because I am resting." Naming the feeling strips away its power. Then remind yourself clearly, recharging is an action. Over time, the racing heart will slow down. The guilt will fade to a whisper, and eventually to silence. You will discover the profound joy of a slow morning. You will learn to savor the peace of a canceled plan and the beauty of an evening spent doing absolutely nothing. You will find that you actually have more authentic energy for the people who truly matter. You have spent so much of your life trying to be the good person, the one who fixes the mess, the one who carries the weight, the one who swallows their own discomfort so everyone else can be comfortable. But you are allowed to put the heavy boxes down. You are allowed to close your door. You do not need to buy your right to exist with your exhaustion. You have inherent value, exactly as you are, even when your hands are completely empty.